find what motivates you. Don't do anything that you think, your parents want you to do, or because you think that, it'll bring you, is something you're supposed to be doing. Find something that truly brings you happiness, because the way I think of it is, I'm going to be doing my job for the next 60 years. So if you can find something that you're happy to do for the next 60 years, then that's probably the best job for you in terms of your career and lifestyle.
So, hi guys, my name is Aman Sinha. I am the host of the show Let's Talk with Aman, and it's my privilege to welcome Yashika. She is studying and pursuing medical. She's currently living in UK. So, hello Yashika, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. So, let's start with the questions. Since I know you don't have much time, so my first question to you is, who is Yashika?
Oh gosh, that's such a deep question. Who am I? Well, I'm currently a graduate student on a medical course in the UK. I've already done a degree before this, BSc Biomedical Sciences. So that was around 3 years. And then I took a gap year, worked as a HCA at one of my local hospitals, and now I'm studying graduate entry medicine. So I'm in my third year at the moment. So I've got one more year left before graduating, which is actually it's gone by so quickly. But I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, that's sort of me in a nutshell there.
Amazing. So Yashika, I heard that you have taken 1 year gap between completing your
Yeah.
graduation and now. So during that 1 year period of time, what was the thought in your mind? Like, do you thought that your friends are continuing ahead, they are pursuing their career, and you are just taking the break right now, to regroup yourself or to get a more, experience for which you are going to go ahead. So what was the, thinking of you that?
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good question. So when I was completing my undergraduate degree, so when I was in my final year of BSc Biomedical Sciences, I already knew I'd be taking a gap year anyway, so it wasn't quite unexpected. I'd already sort of put a plan in place as to what I wanted to do, and that was essentially to gain a further experience in the healthcare field. And regarding sort of seeing my friends progress forward, actually, it's very common to take a gap year between sort of your undergraduate degree and then pursuing medicine. So it's not very uncommon thing. So you sort of see that all around you. And for me, that just felt like a natural step to go forward. And a few of my friends did the exact same thing. So actually, we took our gap year together. And it was a great time. Like, I traveled quite a bit. I had a job. I earned some money because obviously graduate entry, you have to pay a lot of it for yourself in terms of finances. And I still have that job now. So I'm still working part-time as a HCA to ensure I can just fund my degree, because obviously, I'd rather I'd rather be independent and not having to sort of borrow money from anyone else. So I like the idea of being financially stable as well. So I think for me, that gap year was a blessing in disguise, and I don't regret anything about it at all. And I think, honestly, going forward, or if I have to give advice to anyone, if you do have a gap year, enjoy it. It's honestly one of the best things that's probably going to be presented to you. So go ahead.
Like, I have heard, like, in India, and my friends who have taken medical as well. So they have also taken gap year after 12. But I don't think like the study, like how you study right now in UK and the Indian medical industry is completely different. I believe. Like after 12, my friends were directly pursuing for doctor need. They completed need and they got admission in big colleges like top aims and all. So, but for you, you have to study BSc. You have to give your 12th standard then BSc. So, what's the process of admission, getting
So
admission?
actually, no, you can study. So for example, we do our A levels here, so that would be the equivalent of completing sort of. So we go all the way up till year 13. So you do your 12, year 13, and then you can apply directly to study medicine, as your friends would have done as well. The only system that does that, I think, is like the American system, where you have to do pre-med, and then you study medicine. Whereas here, you can go directly into medicine. Now, the only reason I didn't get into first, I just simply didn't have the grades, and I think I didn't have the experience. So for myself, I think I still needed some more time to get to grips with sort of just generally like, general life skills and understanding more about medicine and the field. And it requires quite a lot of commitment. So I think for me, even doing another degree before medicine, I think for me, that's still been a great opportunity, because I met a couple of my best friends in my undergraduate degree, and I've learned so much about just general life skills, having a job, having a part-time job, just basic things that they don't really teach you. And I think honestly, doing a degree before actually pursuing medicine is not a bad way to go about it. But if you obviously get a chance to do medicine the first time round, then go for it. Like, it's probably a good opportunity. But yeah, that was my journey. But yeah, usually in the UK, you can either go directly into medicine after your year 12 or year 13, or you can do a degree and then go into medicine. So I obviously did the latter.
Like right now, while you're talking, when you're discussing about your experience and how you went,
yeah.
I heard that you said you didn't have that marks, like high marks to get directly into. So in India, what I have noticed is like even if you don't have that high marks, if you don't have 90%, but you can still apply for AIMS and all by giving the written entrance test. Is it same like joint entrance test in India? You have to go for NEET and all. So is it same in UK also? Like one has to give an entrance exam for all university, or is it separate for each and every university?
Yeah, so from an undergraduate level, so you've completed year 12, you've completed year 13. So you do your A level, so that's like your highest school exam. That's standard for anything you want to go to uni. So that's for any course you want to do. You have to have those, obviously you need those normal grades. And then to do medicine, we have something called the UCAT, which is like a 2-hour entrance exam, and the BMAT. And I believe there's one other, but those two are the main ones they use. It's the UCAT and the BMAT for an undergraduate level. And those two entrance exams depends on what uni you're applying to. So essentially, it's not that every uni has its own exam, but it's either going to be UCAT or BMAT. Essentially, it's not like different, like unis will have their own specific one, so you sit with UCAT or BMAT, but that changes when you do graduate entry. So obviously I did one degree, and then I had to do something called the GAMSAT. Now that's a graduate entry medical exam. So you wouldn't do that if you were, for example, going from year 12 and year 13 to medical school. So that exam I sat, that was a 6-hour exam. So it was actually it was a strenuous, it was a very long exam, but somehow cleared it. So yeah, I had to do GAMSAT and then UCAT as well. So 2 entrance exams at that point. And you can still, and that's not to say, by the way, you can, if you do a degree from undergrad, you can still sit a undergraduate course, if that makes sense. So I'm doing a graduate course, which is 4 years, but an undergraduate course is around 5 or 6 years, because obviously you haven't had any previous degrees before that. But you can actually, as a graduate, so you've done BSc 3 years, you can still go on and do sort of say a undergraduate medical degree. But yeah, that's essentially.
So that means like if you studied your undergraduate at some subject, like just say you did your BSc, so you have the basics. But if you jump directly from 12 and 13, you will have to learn basics as well, which will take 1 or 2 years more.
If that is that for the undergraduate?
No, like if you did undergraduate, so you don't have to study the basics much. But one who jumped directly from 12 and 13 directly to the medical school, so they have to learn basics as well for 1 and 2 years, right?
Oh, that depends on the course. So some courses have foundation years. So that will be like, okay, you've just come to our uni, we'll give everyone a base understanding. But to be honest, most medical courses, if you're going from 12 and 13 directly to undergraduate medicine, you will have like at least 1 semester of just basics, of doing basic understanding. But usually it's split into like preclinical and then clinical years. But yeah, there will be some sort of like grouping and like providing a foundation for everyone to sort of go from.
So like just to be basic, like you will have studied the Indian education system is similar to UK education system, and then American education system as well. So which do you think is best, American or United Kingdom system? Because
please. I haven't had any experience with the American education system, so I can't speak on it from that perspective, as I don't have enough knowledge about it. But in just terms of the medical perspective, having to do so there, you definitely have to do a undergraduate or pre-med degree before you pursue medicine, and I don't think that's bad at all. I think with medicine, it's a career you're going into which requires a lot of commitment. And you're dedicating your whole life to taking care of patients and making sure that they're receiving the most optimal care from you. So I honestly don't think doing a degree beforehand, if anything, will be very beneficial to do something before medicine. And also it just gives you a chance to do something different as well in life. It's good to be able to do something different before you go into medicine, because essentially once you start medicine, it is a very linear progression after that, isn't it? So I think something that you're doing beforehand will definitely it would add a bit more diversity to your palette, I guess. So it's not I would recommend doing a degree before med, but maybe that's just me being very biased. If you get into medicine first time after start from year 12 and year 13, then that's great, because that's something, for example, my brother's got into he's got an offer into medicine and he's just finishing year 13, so he'll be going directly into medicine, whereas me, I've done a degree and now doing medicine. So it's actually quite interesting.
So like what I have seen, and I don't have any experience in medical. I don't know about medical much, since I've studied biology till stand 10th only. So I've seen in like many, medical university vlogs, I love to watch day in the life vlogs. So I've watched many YouTube vlogging. And even if I've seen you also, you study so much. So before, starting your medical journey, you study 12 and 13 hours each and day to prep for the exams. And now even after, completing the exam, when you went to medical, you have to study more than that. So how you face that kind of situation, how you keep motivated yourself? Because for me, I can't study for more than 3 to 4 hours. Like I feel so frustrated looking at the same work again and again. But for you guys, you have to, practice each and every day. You have to keep learning something each and every day. So how you guys do this?
I mean, I think you're totally right. I think it's no different as a medical student. You can easily sit down and bury yourself in a textbook for hours on end and get frustrated at the sheer amount of content that you have to cover. But that being said, I think it's the motivation. So it's why you're studying. At the end of the day, you want to put the work in, you want to put the effort in, because so one of my tutors, she told me, I didn't actually pass one of my I think second year exams. I had to resit. So at that time I was feeling very down, and I was thinking, oh gosh, how can I go forward from this? I have so much content to learn. There's so much to cover. But there's one thing that my tutor said to me, and she said, you're doing it for your patients. And that honestly has stuck with me ever since. We're not learning to pass our exams. We're not learning just simply to clear, get our degree and stuff. We're doing this for our patients at the end of the day. And to me, I think that's quite motivating, because if I sit down and I think, oh God, there's so many chapters to cover, but then I think actually at the end of the day, this knowledge will be useful, because if someone's having a cardiac arrest, I'm not going to be thinking, oh my God, I wish I'd covered that chapter. At the end of the day, I'm going to be like, God, I've got the skills, I've got the knowledge, I just need to apply myself to that situation. So for me, I think that's the motivation that keeps me going, not that I have to study for an exam or I have to study for something that needs to be done. It's because I want to do it, and I want to do it for my patients to make sure they're safe at the end of the day. There's no there's no telling what will come through the door. So that's my way to look at things. And in terms of sort of work-life balance as well, it is tricky. I won't lie, I'll be very honest and say I'm still trying to figure out the best way. Not sometimes I can, especially with lockdown, you can lead such a sedentary lifestyle, and I feel you do need to find ways to be able to make sure you get away from the textbooks, get away from the learning, and do something for yourself. But that's essentially how I keep myself motivated.
So this would be one of those questions that many would have asked you. So why you decided to pursue medical as your career?
Why? Oh gosh, this is like a typical interview question. Why do you want to study medicine? I feel like I'm seeing my interview again.
Still, it's one honestly, of the best questions, I believe.
Oh God, I think it's one of the hardest questions to answer, because it's not just one answer, is it? But do you know what's really helped me doing my undergraduate degree? because from my undergraduate degree, I realized I didn't want to. So biomedical science can be very research related, very lab orientated. And I realized actually I want a lot more patient contact. I want a lot more clinical. I want to be in a clinical environment. So I think that was one factor. And then obviously during my gap year, I worked as a healthcare assistant. So as a job role, a healthcare assistant, essentially you're working alongside the nurses. So another role is called like auxiliary nurses as well. So sort of just working alongside the nurses there, and working in that hospital environment helped me realize that actually I want to be able to be here. I want to be able to work in the hospital. And the skills I'd accrued during that time as well, I felt that would be a lot more suited to be working as a doctor. Another follow-up question is like, why wouldn't you want to work as a nurse? Why do you want to be a doctor, not a nurse? Because that's essentially you're working with patients then. But essentially I feel for me anyway, that's why I wanted to do medicine. Just for my undergraduate degree, my work experiences and working as a HCA, I realized like there's a lot of skills I have that would be useful to be able to work as a doctor and for me to be able to provide that to people. That's I think so.
No, but still, nurse work is to just help the patient, but the doctor is the one who treats you well and who will make you healthier. That's what I feel like, because I have this. Sorry, I'm very sorry. Please.
Sorry, no, that's fine. I was just saying with nurses, just to say, like, that's not to like nurses do an absolutely great job. I've working as a sort of auxiliary nurse to say they make patients healthier, they treat the patients well. That's nurses doing. Nurses spend more time with patients than the doctors. They'll be the first point of call. They'll be the ones that the patients tell that actually, I don't feel well. I feel there's something going on. So honestly, without nurses, doctors wouldn't be able to do anything. Like, honestly, they're great at what they do.
I agree. But what I was asking, like, so I have this very rare disease, inverted papilloma in my nose. So you may have heard about this since we're in medical, inverted papilloma, the nasal polyps, it's a further upgradation of nasal polyp. That's what my doctor said, that you will get inverted papilloma if you have a high level of sinus. So I'm struggling from sinus since I was 10-year old. And I have a very bad cold symptom whenever cold happens. So during that time, the doctor, supported me a lot rather than the nurse. So that's what I feel like. I've always contacted the doctor much.
Yeah.
So talking about, as you have pursued yourself in doctors, what's your subject field? Like in doctor also, there are many subject fields, as in engineering is, as in other subjects are. What's your personal field as a doctor?
Oh gosh, this is a question I get asked all the time, and I think my answer every time is that I'm still sort of trying to see what I like. So you're asking about like sort of the specialties, isn't it? The difference, but yeah. So essentially, just very quickly, the healthcare system here, we have primary care and secondary care. So primary care is like where all the GPs work, and essentially, they'll be the first point of contact. So if you're feeling ill, so you mentioned having sort of nasal polyps. So if you're in the UK, you'd see your general practitioner, and then if something needs a bit more looking into, they'll refer you to secondary care. So then they'll refer you to the hospital. So over here, we'd go to the GP, and then if something happens, then you go to the hospital. So that being said, I was initially wanting to go into GP and working in an office and doing a 9-to-5, seeing patients. But very, very recently, I think I'm a lot more interested in psychiatry and the mind, and especially forensic psychiatry. I think it's so interesting, and I don't know, I've in my third year of undergrad as well, all my third year modules are based around psychology and psychiatry, so maybe that's why I'm a bit more drawn to it. But that being said, like, I think there's so many fields out there. I've eliminated a few. I'm not sure if you want to hear about the ones I definitely don't want to do. So for example, I don't want to do pediatrics, that's specializing with children. I don't want to do ENT, so ears, nose and throat. So unfortunately I wouldn't be able to treat your polyps, nasal polyps. And then what else? Ophthalmology, so the eyes. I don't think I'd be able to go into that as well. So those are the few I've definitely eliminated. But yeah, maybe psychiatry and I'd sort of look into. But yeah, general practice, being a general practitioner as well, it is sort of on the sidelines there.
Okay, so you're still at, at that verge of point that you want to still pursue more. So talking about, medical area only. So do you think, like, in what I have faced in journalism is like we need to learn practical more rather than learning theoretical? So is it same for you? Like, since you will be doing practical more rather than, theoretical.
Yeah.
So is the same happening with you where you are studying right now in your uni? You are practicing practical more and, learning theoretical, the only you required for, daily basis? Or is it 50-50 same?
So I'm on a graduate course, which means that our degree has been truncated to 4 years. So we've only got 4 years to cover everything, like the whole of medicine. So for our course anyway, greater emphasis is given on the practical and clinical side of things. And as you progress through medicine anyway, you realize a lot more of it is clinically orientated. You won't, like, for example, you will start with textbooks, but for now at the moment myself, I'm doing a lot more practical and clinical things. So I'll be at the GP practice every single week. I'll be seeing patients every single week. I'll be doing my own consultations, and greater emphasis is given on that. And I think as a doctor, it is better to be a lot more practical and clinically orientated, because at the end of the day, if a patient comes in, you need to be able to talk to them. You need to be able to understand what they're saying and what they're telling you. And you need to be able to rule out any sort of emergencies or serious cases. And in order to do that, you need some clinical skills. Like, a textbook might be able to tell you that, oh, someone's going into cardiac arrest and, they don't have a pulse, they're not breathing. But until you see that in real life, it can be quite different. I remember doing my first CPR on someone when they'd sort of gone into cardiac arrest and their heart had stopped beating, and it's so different when you do CPR on a real person compared to like a dummy model, for example. So I think I'm all for doing more practical and clinical, but that being said, you obviously still need some knowledge. You need to be able to apply theoretical knowledge. But I'd say, for example, like it will be, I don't know, 1/3 knowledge and 2/3 clinical and practical. I think that's sort of the emphasis I'd be going for.
So, Yashika, so the next question would be, since you are Indian, so it's a very common question that why you selected UK as your pursuing career rather than India? Because I think India has very good colleges, very good medical colleges, where you can have directly started your career as a medical student, and then you if you have used 3 years or 4 years in undergraduate, and then here 4 years again. So it has taken you around 8 to 9 years to complete your medical journey. In India, it would have only taken 6 or 7 years of yours. So why you selected UK rather than India?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be very honest and say I probably didn't have much of a say because my parents moved out of India since I was like 1 year old. So I don't think I actively had a choice, had a role in that decision. But that being said, so I moved out of India when I was the age of 1, and then I moved to Botswana in Africa for a while, and then I think I did year 1 there, and then I came to the UK, and then I've been in the UK since 2002, I want to say, and my brother was born here, so he's we're all UK citizens, but as in he was born and bred here. So as I guess, like, if I had the opportunity to go back, which to be honest I hadn't really considered, because my whole life I've grown up here, my family, my mom, dad, my brother, they're my family, they're here, my friends, my school, everything, everything has been here. So for me, I do consider this as my home. But that being said, obviously when I do go back and I see my grandparents and my extended family, it is really nice to see them. But so actually you mentioned about going back to India, doing training there. So this year I actually wanted to come to India to do what we called an elective. So in medical degrees here, you have around, in your sort of final year, you get about 8 weeks to go abroad and study in a country of your choice. So I actually wanted to come to India during those 8 weeks and study, sort of get more experience, and in whatever suitable hospital there was, and pick up a bit more clinical skills there. But obviously because of COVID that couldn't happen. So I would have actually come back. I would have come back for some time just to see what what sort of life and healthcare system is like in India. And then you mentioned sort of the training taking around sort of 8 years for myself, whereas in India would have only been 6 to 7 years. For me personally, I don't see it as a race. It's not a competition. Like, I'm not seeing this, oh my God, I have to complete it within 5 years. I have to do, because the thing is, like, at the end of the day, once I qualify, this is my only job for the next 60 years. So like, you know, there's no race. Like, once I qualify, I will be doing this for the rest of my life. So I don't think it's not a race to be getting things over and done with. I think you should enjoy the journey. And do you know what, if it takes a bit longer, that just means I have more experience for myself. So it's absolutely fine.
So, it's really glad to hear such thing, because you were planning to come in, and I've heard also from my sister that you were planning, but then COVID happened.
Yeah.
So talking about COVID, I have seen that you guys have to go to clinics each and every day to participate in the COVID, because you guys were in the front, you guys were in the front lines that time, while we were sitting back at home and you guys were working hard. So I think during that time also the classes for you were not shut completely, because you have to attend class as well as to put effort. You have to put effort in your part-time job also. So during that time, how you were handling the daily life schedule? Because for you have to be in a PPT kit each and every day, and then you coming back home and cleaning yourself up, and then studying again hard. So was it way too tough during that 1 year frame period?
I think that's actually quite a good question. So for us, we got an email for saying sort of, so actually just before this, that we were observing a minute silence, because it's been exactly 1 year of lockdown since UK went into lockdown. So we that was around 12 o'clock. We had that 1 minute of silence. So I just sort of tweeted about this recently as well, and I was saying how we got an email from the university saying, like, we're going into lockdown, face-to-face teaching has been suspended, and essentially all the teaching has been moved online, and you'll be going home for the remaining academic year. So at that time we all went home, we all did our online classes and stuff. But during that time, I obviously, as I said, I had my part-time job as a healthcare assistant. Now, not everyone obviously has that, but I thought for myself, if I can help, I wanted to be able to help the NHS. And if I'm already back home, then it wouldn't be much of an issue for me just to pick up some shifts at my local hospital. So working in the front lines at that time, it was quite it was, honestly, thinking back to it, is really interesting. Like, some of the shifts were very hard, very tricky, but what was good is the sense of community. Like, everyone pulled in together. We were all helping each other out, because it was essentially a global crisis, and not one that we'd seen for quite a while, especially in the UK. So and then managing that with my studies, it was actually quite tricky. I'll be honest and say, I used to come home and I was so tired. I had to do 12-hour shifts for the most part of it. So coming back home and sort of being able to carry on the next day, it was hard. But I think being at home was quite nice, because I had nice family support and talking to my friends and stuff. They were very supportive about that. So I think people reaching out to me and asking me how I was doing, I think that was an integral part of sort of my mental health and making sure I was sort of carrying on with my studies and stuff.
I think the one thing that was best for you, that you don't have to cook for yourself during that time.
Yeah, that was quite nice, actually. Obviously, like, my parents are honestly so supportive and so good. My mom as well. She was so good with this. Like, she honestly made sure that I was well looked after.
So we have discussed some more about your university, and you're still growing. So I think there would be end for the university. Talking a little bit early, in your school time, when you said you started studying in UK from first standard, if I'm not wrong, first or second.
So year two.
Year two. So do you face any racism, because you went to UK in 2002? So I don't know what was the situation. Did you face any racism or any bullying from your classmates or anyone surrounding you? Did you have any this kind of problems with you, that you are absolutely a different you're not the same as them, you're a different color person, you're a brown person? So did you have hardship, and how much time it took for you to get into with it, and to make friends and all? So how was that experience for you?
So initially, even before I moved to the UK, I was living in Botswana for a while. So it's not like I came from India straight away to the UK. Like I'd already felt like I was moving around quite a bit. And even when I came to the UK, I hadn't settled in one place. I'm pretty sure I moved like four schools before I settled into one school. So it was, I think, from a perspective of just me moving around and me being the new girl at every school, I think that was quite tricky because obviously I hadn't formed stable and lasting friendships. And I'd always sort of be joining halfway through the year or something. So I think I remember that being little bit tricky. But in terms of racism and stuff, I think I'd like to say I've been quite privileged and lucky in the sense that I haven't been subjected to sort of overt racism in that sense, and I haven't been directly been picked on because of my skin color or anything like that. But I remember maybe things were a bit more difficult because I think there's on some occasions I felt like, oh, this didn't feel right, or is it because it was a racist act, or is it because like I'm just a new girl here? And kids some kids can be so mean, can't they? Children just don't know what they're saying or what they're doing. But looking back at it, I think I had a really good childhood. I had a really good upbringing, and I don't remember that much of it being sort of in a way that was negative and where I was subjected to racism. But that being said, I think I'm very lucky because I know some of my friends, for example, growing up, and they're a person of color, for example, and when they were growing up and they came to the UK and stuff, and they mentioned that they had been subjected to racism, and it wasn't nice. And sometimes they'll be sitting on the bus and someone would like literally move away from them just because they were like of a different race and background. So that hasn't happened to me, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. But I've been very lucky in the sense that I haven't had that like overt racism experience. But I think we've seen a general movement globally because of recent cases that have been brought up in media with racism and sort of Black Lives Matter and with whatnot, and there has been it's shed a lot of light on these issues, and I think we are trying to sort of move away from it and trying to have a bit more understanding about what's been going on. But I personally, I feel like I've been quite lucky in that sense. But yeah.
Like I recently took an interview with one of my friends. He's living in US and he's from UK. So he doesn't have the first language. So he said that he did have a bit, but as you said, not that much. Because kids, I think kids, if you are a kid, you also doesn't get to understand what is racism during that.
Exactly.
So moving ahead with this, you may have heard the current situation of Oxford University, which happened. Like the Indian girl who became the student president, but she has to resign from her post because the racism factor. So do you have anything, since I am a journalist student, so I have to bring this question to you because you are living in UK. So do you, what your points and thoughts are about?
So from my understanding, I hadn't actually gone into details of that case. So from my understanding, she's come from India, studied at Oxford in the UK, and then I think was it the situation where she's obviously quite religious, and was it Sri Ram that I think she was worshipping a lot, and then her parents were quite religious with that as well, and then she was subjected to some form of racism. Because unfortunately I don't actually know the details of that case. I don't want to make an opinion on something that I'm not well informed. But is that correct? Is that essentially what was the racist comments that came from that? Because I didn't actually quite go into it.
Not typically I know that much because it was something that come up and I just have a little bit only, so I don't know much. But the factor came out that all the news channel at the same point were showing this only, that
same. Exactly. I think it will be quite unfair for me to make a comment considering I'm not well informed on that. But I mean, racism is racism. I think that's terrible. That's obviously happened. It shouldn't have been. So especially at Oxford University, it's regarded as a prestigious university, and somewhere that they obviously value education. So things like racism seem quite shocking to me because obviously that's such it just seems so ridiculous for an event like that to happen. But I mean, I'm hoping the girl's okay. I'm not actually sure if is she still studying there, or is she resigned and come back to India. I'm not actually sure what the follow-up of that case is. But I obviously, I stand against it, and I would be in full support of, whatever action she's taken. But I would like to, I think after this, I'll probably read up a little bit more about it, because I'm not actually sure of exactly what's happened following on from that. But yeah, overall, like that, I think that's absolutely, it's crazy. It's completely mind-numbing and bizarre for something like that to happen in the first place.
So like, we did discuss about a lot of stuff. Let's talk a bit personal. Let's come to a bit personal questions. So you who lived you lived your entire life out of India. So whenever you came to India, what was your family, and you do have some friends in India, if I'm not wrong. So what was their reaction? Because I remember one of my family members lives in UK at one time. Now they have shifted to US. So whenever they came, they came from a place where Harry Potter lives. I was a super fan of Harry Potter, so I was like, did you watch them? Did you see Daniel Radcliffe in person and all? Did you see the shooting and all? So what was your family reaction whenever you came back? Because you have a different accent also. You lived in UK, so you have that tone and that accent of UK. So in India is like we have this kind of accent where it looks like we are just using another language. You're using secondary language, and for you it's your first language. So what was your family and friends' reaction whenever you came to
India? Oh God, I don't know. So for example, I only go to India every 4 or 5 years. So the last time I went was before I started my medical degrees in 2000, and was it the summer of 2018, I want to say, and that's the last time. The next time I would go now is probably after, I don't know, maybe after I graduate, I suppose. I don't actually know, but seeing how COVID is going. But yeah, when I go back to India, I just remember when I was really young. I think there was a point when I was really young and I'd only speak in English to the rest of my family members, because that's the language I was speaking back home as well. And I remember like no one would understand me. So then I remember like I actually made an active effort to make sure I understood and spoke Hindi, just because obviously I want to be able to speak it to my grandparents and make sure, not that they obviously speak English and stuff, but just essentially making sure I know my mother tongue. But with my cousins and stuff, I think it's pretty chill. Like there's no, they always ask me like, how is life in the UK and how are things different and what you're getting up to. But I don't know. Obviously, for me, it feels like a holiday, but at the same time, it's also my home, because it's my parents' home there as well. So I remember we always used to like go to our grandparents' house or my naniji's house, and like we just chill with all the cousins. And for me, it's really nice because it's like a big family reunion. For my parents, it's obviously even better because they're actually seeing that they're going somewhere they've grown up and they've been there for a while. So I don't know. I think maybe it's different. I don't know. But like for me, I've always felt quite welcomed, and it's just nice to be able to go somewhere where I can just have like a contact with my culture and know this is actually where I come from. And it's nice. It's nice. I don't think there's anything sort of different about it.
I felt what you were saying. I felt same thing when I moved to Bangalore for 2 years. Because Bangalore doesn't have the first language as Hindi, they have the Kannada language.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
So I don't know how to speak Kannada. So it was like for 2 years continuously I spoke English without speaking Hindi, a single word. Yeah. So whenever I, after coming to Lucknow, shifting to Lucknow, I was not able to speak Hindi that often. So it was a very, my friends used to say that before meeting your sister, they used to call me a guy who was very arrogant in nature, who doesn't know how to speak Hindi. He always speaks in English. But my Hindi went so bad. I was like, I just don't know how to properly use Hindi. Some words, I'm still afraid of using some typical words because I know I'm going to mess up and that's going to make a fun out of me. So it happens. So that's happens same with you. Like sometimes you're just, so stuck with some word that you don't know how to use. Then you have to use the English word.
Exactly. And the thing is, even when so I speak to my parents in Hindi, and I think I like that, because then I use the language, and I'm making sure that I'm using on a regular basis. And also, I go home, I watch Bollywood movies with my parents and stuff. So, that's fine. My brother, on the other hand, he's literally grown up in the UK. So his Hindi is so different to my Hindi. And you could tell, like, even his accent when he speaks Hindi, it's like so different. Whereas I think even my accent as well, like I try my best to speak Hindi as like to, but even sometimes I will say, what did I say? I said something the other day and I got picked up on, and it's the wrong grammar. And I think I said something like, what did I say? I think I said something like barish ho raha hai, but it's actually barish ho rahi hai because it's female something, yeah. Right? So I was like, oh my God. So I always get very conscious about these things. But yeah, I try my best, but yeah, it's hard when you're obviously like that, the country you're living in, that's not the
I can understand if 2 years can make me rid of Hindi permanently, then what happens to you? You're living in for more than 18 years, you're living in UK, and for more than 20 years you are out of India. So exactly. Like we have discussed everything, nearly everything. So I just want to ask, what current, the 20, how, I'm sorry, I should not ask your age, but how.
Oh my God, it's fine. I'm 24 years old.
Okay. So what a 24-year-old Yashika will tell her younger self?
Oh gosh, that's a nice one. I like that question. That's a good question. What would I tell my younger self? Do you know what? I think I would just say be patient. Like everything will work out. Like there used to be a time where I used to be like, oh my God, I want to do this now. I need to get through this now. Let me, if I don't get it first time, like that'll be so embarrassing. I think the one thing I would say is be patient. Things will work out as it's supposed to work out. And I'm pretty sure there's a Hindi saying in that as well. Like, everything you deserve will come to your way, but in its own time. And I think that's probably like the advice I would give my younger self, because honestly, if someone told me that, I would have been so much better off. But I'm telling myself that now. And I'm probably, 5 years from now, like when I'm like, I don't know, 20, 29, 30 odd, I'd probably be telling myself the same thing. So be patient, everything will work out. I think that's a good way to end it.
It's so hilarious that we are just 1 year apart, and how, you're just completing your, I would say it's masters for us. Like if I, completed my graduation, then if I have to undergraduate and I have to do my master's, then for you are completing your medical degree next year. Then you will be doctor, yeah. And my graduation will be completed just within 6 months. And even I will be a full-fledged person who will be finding his job and deciding what to do in his career. So before ending thing, do you like to say anything to the audience who will watch this video, So how to pursue their career, how to keep themselves motivated?
Gosh, well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. If you made it this far on listening to me, that's actually great. If you have this much enthusiasm watching this video, I'm sure you have this much enthusiasm pursuing your own career. So I'm sure you'll be fine. But my general advice to anyone, I think, find what motivates you. Don't do anything that you think, your parents want you to do, or because you think that, it'll bring you something you're supposed to be doing. Find something that truly brings you happiness, because the way I think of it is I'm going to be doing my job for the next 60 years. So if you can find something that you're happy to do for the next 60 years, then that's probably the best job for you in terms of your career and lifestyle.
Awesome. So the last question should I ask, what are your future plans after graduating?
Hopefully to become a doctor. So after all these years, I'm hoping that'll still be there. So I graduate in June or July 2022. So and then, as I said, it's a very linear progression. So I'll be doing 2 years foundation year, then I'll be doing my specialty training. So hopefully, not only I want to be a doctor, but hopefully I become a good doctor to my patients. So that is my plan. Like it's very set in stone. There's not too much to it. That being said, I want to take a gap year. See, I'm encouraging gap years for everyone. Take a gap year. Not a gap year, but at least between my foundation and specialty years, I'll probably want to go to New Zealand for a while and do some training there. I think that'd be quite nice one to do as well. But yeah, that's sort of my brief life plan.
If you say about gap year, then I am one of those guys who have taken gap year, and I know gap year is very important for you to decide what you want to do, because it will just clean your mind after 12th and 13th, and it will help you to decide.
Exactly. So, literally, I mean, honestly, you should get someone to interview you. I mean, like I'll happily interview on the next one. I'll ask you about what your career goals are and your gap years and what degrees you've taken and all the personal questions.
It will be a pleasure of mine if I ever got the chance. But I have still many things in my life I have to do. First, I want to build this YouTube channel. That's what my goal is. I want to build this YouTube channel somewhat. And I just want someone to get motivated by my videos, because that's what
me too. I hope so too.
So I think this would be Yashika, that would a very fun conversation with you. I've learned and gained so much knowledge from you, like about the medical and how one should, like, if I think whenever we'll meet, you will be a doctor, complete doctor whenever we'll meet. And I think I will be somewhat a businessman that I wanted to be at my time whenever we meet. So I think that would be it. So
yeah, perfect. I think thank
you. I should say thank you for taking some time and coming to the show and just giving the words of wisdom that may require by some who is pursuing medical. And you are one of the inspiration of many. I know it will sound nice. Because I've seen your status each and every day. I've seen your pictures. I've read each of your article that you write down with your post. And you share so much information with each and every post of yours, and it's all so good to have talked to you. It's finally, it was a dream of mine to talk to you before I graduate, because then I would be talking to you as a man who has got a job. But right now, I'm still a child. I'm still studying with the help of my parents. So that was a very fun conversation with you, and I think that will be it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.